Hey y'all, it's Ashley at Bookishrealm, and I am here to do my mid-year book freakout tag. It's not exactly the middle of the year, but it's fine. I'm gonna go ahead and do this because April, May, June, and July I'll be doing more of like the best books and the worst books of the second quarter. Listen, this reading here has been super intense for me. I'm not gonna even lie to y'all. This month has been super intense for me reading wise. And I have been reading a lot this month. If you follow me on Goodreads and you've been watching my updates, you will know that I have read a lot this month, and it's been a mix of so many different things. Graphic novels, comics, children's, middle grade, young adult. It's just been a mix of so many different things. Yeah, I definitely feel like because I've been reading so much, sitting down and doing this tag was really, really interesting because I've read over 500 books. As of today, the time that I am filming this, I have read over 500 books. And so trying to narrow down options to make this make sense and to make it as concise as possible was actually quite difficult for me. And I'm sure I'm still missing things. And so like for some of these questions, I am answering multiple, like I'm giving multiple answers because I can't just narrow it down to one. And it's been a lot. It's been a lot, but in a good way. It's been a good reading year. I think that I have somewhere around 60 books that have gotten a 4.5 or 5-star review from me. So, I mean, that is a good percentage of the books that I've read. If we're at 500, that's about 20% of the books that I've read have been 4.5 or 5-star reads, which for me is good because I don't give out my 5 stars very often, and so to have read so much, I also begin to become a little bit more critical because you are intaking a lot of things and some things start to feel the same, and so it is nice to know that I am still finding pleasant moments in my reading. So we're gonna go ahead and start this. I screenshotted the questions. I wrote my answers down on a sticky note, but then I realized like my answers didn't match. The brain is complete and total mush. I'm telling you, it's mush. All right, so question number 1 is best book you've read so far. I have a few, and I'm not gonna really go into a lot of details with any of these because we would be here for a long time. And no, I have not done a weekly wrap up for June because I decided to vlog my experience doing the Amazing Readathon, and so you will get my June wrap up in a very long vlog that will be coming to you at the end of the month. But I recently read In a Jam, which I thought was absolutely beautifully done. Not one that I would have picked up on my own outside of the readathon. I really didn't know anything about it. It was big in the romance community last year, but I really, really liked that. I just wrote a review on that one recently and gave it 5 stars. Black Girl You've at Atlas. You can never go wrong with Renee Watson. She released 3 books this year. She released that young adult poetry collection. She released her first adult book, and then she also released a picture book, which I read, which was absolutely beautiful, and I have yet to mark as read and review because I have a running list of picture books that I need to update on my Goodreads, which means that the number is going to become even more inflated, but here we are. Chronically Dolores, which is one that I've talked about excessively on this channel. I really, really love that, and that young adult book is perfect for the younger end of YA, like 14, 15, which I always, y'all know me, cyclically talk about how it is difficult to recommend for that age group because so much of YA shifts towards 16, 17, 18, and we forget that 12, 13, 14, and 15 are included in that. I would even say Chronically Dolores can go as low as 13, but definitely perfect for that 14, 15-year-old range. The Oath, which is one that I've talked about excessively. It It's not that I haven't read a poly romance before, but I think The Oath made me realize how much I appreciate poly romances, and so I'm on the hunt for more. I really liked it, and I don't think the next book is out yet. I don't think it comes out till next month, but I'm gonna have to double check and see. But I loved it was so good. I really love that one. And then the last one that I have on my list is Shark Teeth. This was a very, very emotional middle grade book. Definitely check out the content warnings. Y'all know I like reading, you know, I don't want to say depressing stuff, but hard-hitting stuff that makes me feel all of the things, and Shark Teeth definitely falls in that category. The next question, as I sit here, and because I don't trust my sticky notes, so I'm looking at my phone. Best sequel you've read so far this year. So I have 2 for this. I'm not a big follower-upper on series. It's not that I don't read series, it's just that I don't finish them, and I'm horrible at reading sequels. But Foxglove. I'm going to talk a little bit about the first book in a different category. I don't want to spoil it for you before we get there, but Foxglove was a really, really good sequel. The stakes were so high in Foxglove, so unexpectedly good. I don't know if I knew what I was getting myself into with this series, but I must say I'm super excited for Wisteria to drop in August. And I have not been so excited for a new release in a hot minute, so that's a good thing. And then the next one I have is Yours Truly. This one is the sequel to which, how did I not include that on my favorites list? Oh, I didn't include it on my favorites list because I included it in another question, but I should have included it in my favorites as well. But Yours Truly is the follow-up to Part of Your World, which I loved so much. I loved so very much. And Yours Truly was not as strong as Part of Your World, but it was a very, very good follow-up. I just had one gripe with it, which I talked about in one of my weekly wrap-ups. The question number 3 is new release you still want to read. So I have been hearing so much about this book. I had the audio for Libro FM. Group chat was talking about we need to read the book, but thankfully we're waiting until next month. I hope that's still the plan, is to wait until next month. But we are going to read Blood at the Root, and I am very excited to read this. I have heard really good things about it, and a lot of people that I know love it. A lot of people who are not a part of the bookish community really love it, and that makes me nervous. I'm not gonna lie to you, it makes me nervous because there are so many things that I feel potentially could go wrong, especially if we're talking about like palatability and stuff like that. But I'm hoping that it's gonna go well, but I just keep hearing so many great things about it that it is definitely high up there on my new release radar. And I just chose that one specifically because honestly, part of my job is keeping up with new releases. So I'm gonna be reading a lot of new releases, but if I wanted to pick one specifically that stands out right now, that's been top of mind for me, it would be that book. Okay, question number 4 is most anticipated book for the second half of the year. I'm not gonna lie to y'all, I could not come up with an answer for this. Like, there was no answer for this. There's so much that I see on the back end for new releases that for me to sit down and even pick one, my brain just could not handle it at all. So we're gonna skip that one for me because it's way too many for me to cover in the time span of this video. But question number 5 is biggest surprise. So I have 2 for this. I have Belladonna, which was a very big surprise for me. Belladonna was a huge surprise for me. I had heard a lot about Belladonna. I had been wrecked Belladonna. Belladonna had been super hyped on TikTok. And Belladonna, honestly, is not something that I would typically pick up. It is not something that I would actively run to, but I picked it up because I said I'm going to give it a listen. It also was convenient that it, you know, it was something that I needed to look at closely for work anyway. And it blew me away. I was very shocked by how much I ended up really enjoying that story. The pacing, the storytelling, the characters, it's a retelling of sorts, loose retelling. And I was very, very shocked at how much I enjoyed it and how quickly I dove into Foxglove, which is the sequel. So that, and then The Housemaid, another surprise, because I had heard so much about this book via TikTok. It gets a lot of circulation in the library. People are always talking about Freida McFadden, and I just really originally was like, I have no interest in checking out Freida McFadden. And then I was just like, you know what? I just want to read on my Kindle. I didn't feel like picking up anything physically. I wanted to make sure I was being very conscientious of using my Kindle Unlimited subscription, and I decided to check it out. And it was not the best book that I've ever read in terms of thrillers, but I was surprised by how much I did enjoy it. Now, do not hit me with, I know that the accusations of the Last Mrs. Parrish. I'm actually currently listening to that book right now. And I will be doing a video talking about whether there are extreme similarities between the two or not, but be on the lookout for that soon. New favorite author. You know what? This was a difficult one because if I want to talk about someone that I've read enough of their work to say favorite author, there was only two authors where I feel like I've read multiples of their work within the first 6 months of this year. And that's been Adeline Grace and Abby Jimenez. And while I have enjoyed the Belladonna series, I have not had the inclination to go back and read any of her backlist books. But with Abby Jimenez, I have had a strong inclination to go back and read the rest of her works. In fact, I believe I'm on hold for one of her books. I have the third one in the Part of Your World trilogy upstairs in my room, waiting for me to crack it open. But if I had to choose one author that I've read multiple works from, that I've been slowly working my way through their catalog, it would have to be Abby Jimenez. And it's an inclination to do so, not just to do so for the sake of doing so. It's because I want to explore more of her works and her writing. So I will, yet to technically be defined as a favorite author, but the tinglings in the air say that it could be a possibility. Newest fictional crush would probably have to be Noah from In a Jam. I'm telling you, if you do not love me the way that man loves his wife, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. I'm not interested. I don't want it. I don't want it. And I don't have fictional crushes like that, to be honest with you. This whole idea of like book boyfriends and I've never been one to constantly have those feelings. I don't know what that is. I just don't. Probably because I need some type of emotional connection before I have any, there's a lot more that has to happen for me there. But this one struck me. Like, I really like him as a character. I really do. And I don't say that very often, but my goodness gracious, absolutely. It was just the pure love, respect, and passion that he had for his family, for our heroine. Like, it don't get no better than that. And so if I had to say fictional crush, it definitely would be him. Question number 8, book that made you cry. Of course, you knew this was going to pop up, but Part of Your World. Oh my gosh. That book is going to stay glued to my memory for forever. I read that book in January of this year, and I was going through a very, very rough period. And things have gotten better. It's not 100% better, but I was going through a very, very rough period, and Part of Your World just came to me in the appropriate time. It was a book that I needed, and I didn't know that I needed it. And that's the second time in a January that I've stepped into a year of conflict, and a book has connected me, or has made this connection with me, and really has spoken to the experience that I'm going through. It feels so much like divine intervention a lot of times. But yeah, Part of Your World tore me up. Another book that made me a little emotional, surprisingly, was Smoke, which is the sequel to Burned by Ellen Hopkins. I didn't like cry the way I cried with Part of Your World, but Smoke was emotional. And it's not ironic, but it's funny because I think that Burn is the better written of the two, to be quite honest with you. I really do think that Burn had more of an emotional impact, and it very much so could have been that when I read Burn this month, it was my third time reading it and my first time reading Smoke. And so it wasn't as well written in my opinion, but the emotional impact was intense. I mean, it was so intense. And if you do not know anything about the duology, it is very much so insight to the impact of growing up in a strict religious household, and what that can do to a person, and the consequences of growing up in an environment like that. And it's sad. It's not for the faint of heart. It's a lot of content warnings attached to it, but it impacted me in a way that I was not expecting. So I'm gonna say those two. Question number 9 is worst book that you've read so far. Go ask Alice. I know y'all tired of hearing me talking about this book, but this is the only book that I've given 1 star this year. I've had a couple of 2 stars, a couple of books that I did not choose to rate. 2 of them were autobiographies, and 2 of them were children's books that were really, really bad that I just chose not to rate because I don't drag children's. I just choose not to rate it if it's really, really bad. And there were 2 that I just ultimately had chosen not to rate. But this one, oh my God. I hated this book. I hated this book. I hated this book with every fiber in my soul, and it took me months to read this book. It took me forever to read. I hated the book so much. I hated it so much. It took me months to read it. It took me from September to this year to read this book, and the book was not even 150 pages. And if it was just a little over 150 pages. It does not take me that long to read a book that small at all. I could finish a book like that in one sitting for me. A few hours, if that. But the book was so bad. So bad, it took me months to finish it. I will never get over the mental damage that was done having to read that book, and the fact that that book is definitely a part of the legacy of young adult as an age category just irks me to my soul. I hate that it is, but it is what it is. And so, worst book of the year, hands down. Most beautiful book that you acquired is question number 10. I have not really bought books this year because money is a very funny and interesting thing, but I did want to showcase this book by Nora Murad that she wonderfully sent to me. And this is one that I'm going to try to be reading this month, and it is Ida in the Middle. I think that this book is so pretty. I think that it is absolutely gorgeous. It is such a pretty book. It is a middle grade book that talks about history and contemporary teen life with insight. And it specifically focuses on, and it came with this beautiful bookmark, but it specifically focuses on a young girl by the name of Ida, who's a Palestinian American girl who eats a magic olive that takes her to a life she might have had in her parents' village near Jerusalem. Cannot tell you how much I'm looking forward to reading this book and how important I know that this book is. And this is one that I probably will crack open sometimes sooner than later. It's a middle grade book. It's not long. It's very, very short. But if I had to pick one book that is the most beautiful book, it would be this one. And the last question that I have, the last question that's on this list is: books still on your TBR? So I thought that I would handle this one a little differently. I'm just gonna go through my Libby. Now keep in mind, I have my card and my daughter's card attached to my Libby account. If anybody's like, why do you have so many books shipped out? Because it's me and my kid, okay? So I'm just gonna tell you the books that I have on my immediate TBR that are currently checked out to me on Libby. So we have Under This Red Rock by Mindy McGinnis. We have One Perfect Couple by Ruth Ware. Four Eats and a Funeral. Kill Her Twice by Stacey Lee. Tempest of Tea. Of course, I told you I'm listening to The Last Mrs. Parrish. Louder Than Hunger by John Shu, which is one that I'm really looking forward to reading. It deals with a male character in a middle grade setting that is dealing with an eating disorder, which is not something that we come across very often in middle grade. And it is written in verse, so it's fairly short. I have Tales from Cabin 23, The Boo Hag Flex by Justina Ireland. This is a shorter children's, probably late children's, early middle grade chapter book that's kind of like horrorish, spooky, written by Justina Ireland. This is one that I think would be great to take into consideration for Black Aweenathon. The mini summer version is happening the second half of July, so be sure to keep that in mind. If you don't participate in July, keep it in mind for October. Just Say Yes. I have The Bullet Swallower, Like Happiness, The Last Blood Carver, which is one that I started on audio, but I felt like I wanted to read it physically because of the fact that it is a medical fantasy world, which is a lot of medical terminology, and like listening, even though I was listening to it slowly, I felt like I wasn't retaining enough information, so I got that one an ebook. Then I have Hot Boy Summer, Dragon Fruit, which is one that so many people have been reading, Family, Home is Where the Bodies Are. This is my second Geneva Rose. The first one was an okay experience. We're gonna see how I do with this one. Then I have One Last Breath, which is another YA thriller. Every Time You Hear That Song, it's YA contemporary romance. Have You Seen This Girl? Another YA thriller. And the last one I have is Wish You Weren't Here, which is a YA contemporary sapphic romance, which I'm looking forward to checking out. So those are all the books that I have on my team. It's a lot more than that, y'all, but I thought the simplest way for me to answer the question would be to pull out the books that I already had checked out from Libby. Now, that's not talking about the books that I have on hold, because the books that I have on hold, a lot of these are also 2024 releases, but we're not going to get into that. We're not going to get into that. We're going to leave it at that. But either way, let me know in the comments down below, like, if you want to answer some of these questions. If you don't, tell me like one of the best books you've read so far this year and what is one of the worst books you've read so far this year. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more content from me, click the subscribe button, hit the bell for notifications. And if you're looking for ways to support the channel or follow me on social media, all the links will be down in the description box below. And I'll be back with another video soon. Bye.
You're unaware, keep moving like the scars aren't even there. It's in the air like a